Welcome everyone to another edition of Stepping Up to the Plate. Special edition here. We've got football in the air. It's that time of year. It's Labor Day weekend, and we know that everyone is getting ramped up for the start of the Patriot season, the start of the college football season, and locally the start of the Milton High School football team's title defense of its Division III state championship won a year ago. Next week, we will endeavor to highlight the team and to preview the season upcoming for the Milton High School football team. So keep your eye on that for next week. And but plenty to discuss here. We're catching up after a bit of a hiatus. And my main man, Al Prizzuti, you're looking good, looking a little tan. Did you get out and play golf? What did you do?
I have not. No.
No? You just watched it like I did.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Oh, boy. But I tell you, it was a great time out, with the paring down now of all the NFL rosters, and it was interesting to see what the Patriots did. And I think, well, let me ask you this, Al. Who in your mind was the biggest surprise cut for the Patriots, if there was one?
Well, I mean, there were a number of cuts. I mean, I think everybody that they cut, they had to do. Yeah. I mean, because what they're trying to do is focus on youth.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a kid like Zappi, I mean, that was something that we all knew was going to happen.
Yeah.
But I think what they did was take guys that were marginal, had some success in preseason, and say, you know what, I think we need to just go with the kids. Now, the real problem is going to be who they're going to put. I mean, I know it's a controversy and everything. If they start May, they're making a huge
mistake. I agree with you. Huge mistake. They're going down the same path as they did with a
little different though, and I'll tell you why I think that's a huge mistake. One, the team has no offensive line.
Yeah.
For one thing, the quarterback needs an offensive line. Two, they're a team that's actually everybody is charting them as being not good.
Yeah.
Okay? So if he comes in and May loses the first 4 games, Bissett's could lose the first 4 games.
Might as well let him do it.
So let Bissett do it because he's been around. And then you can then say, okay, now we bring in May and he wins a couple of games and it helps his
And he's
his
had the
mental
benefit
state.
of seeing
Right.
some games, game speed. He's been able to get in the room, study defenses, see what defenses really do. They don't. Every defense is very vanilla during the preseason.
I think what I like about May, though, 2 things I like about him. One, he can run.
Yep.
And 2, he seems to be pretty smart in terms of looking off plays and whatnot. But you're playing in preseason.
It's a very vanilla defense.
But to me,
to
get excited over preseason, whether they win or lose, you're just looking to see how they handle themselves.
Correct.
And,
And you're a sophisticated viewer of this, Al, because I was watching the same thing, and what I liked was how he comported himself in the pocket.
Oh yeah.
How his footwork, how he slid in the pocket when he had to, and then when he made throws down the field, and then when he ran.
Well, what he does really well, I think that we didn't see with the other kid. And we haven't really seen it because Brady wasn't a great running quarterback, is when he looks and sees his coverage is covered, his receivers are covered, he then looks to see where he can run. Right. And the line knows that, so they stick with him and open up some holes for him. And even if he gets, instead of losing yardage, he seems like he can pick up 5 to 6 or 7 yards. Now, if it's in first and second down, I'd rather have 2nd and 4.
Yeah. And the thing is, Al, sad to say from a former offensive lineman here, but, a lot of the mistakes that they were having on offense were related to their poor play up front. Yeah. You had guys bumping into each other. You had, guys coming in untouched, collapsing the pocket.
Robinson was awful.
Well, the other, Caden Wallace too did not have a good.
No,
and there was real cause for concern, and it relates to what you're talking about with respect to starting May over Brissett.
Yeah.
I don't want to expose Drake May to any undue punishment
Yeah.
that Brissett may recognize coming down the pike and can evade because of his savvy. He can see where the blitz is coming from.
Right.
He can see a too high coverage, or maybe they're disguising it. You know, he can see these things and check out of them more readily than, say, May could. And that's not to say that May can't do that.
No, but
it's just that he's not had the time to
Right.
acclimate himself to something
I think
like that.
the other thing is, remember last year, the argument with Jones was the offensive line wasn't that good, the team wasn't that good, and he didn't have receivers. But he wasn't that good on top of it. So you have that's a triple play.
I think his confidence was shattered by year 2 or after year 2. And the disservice they did him by not getting him a true play caller, like an Alex Van Pelt.
Well, we'll see.
You know, a guy who recognizes that, okay, let's ease him into, you know, the play calling sheet with a couple of runs. Let's sprinkle in a couple of runs.
What I didn't like about Brissett, though, the other night, and I know it was the first play when he got hurt, was I think the game before when he threw the interception. There were 2 guys on that kid.
Yeah, he tried to fit
that ball in there, and a long pass like that. I mean,
he needed Joe Milton's fastball on that one.
Yeah, wow.
You know, and that's another guy that I'm excited about, Joe Milton, a guy who's, you know, a athlete as a quarterback.
6'5".
Huge, 6'5", like 240 or something.
240, yeah.
And oh my God, can you imagine him coming downhill?
May's not
and you're
small either.
defensive back, and he's coming downhill.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what the Patriots did, though, is, and I think would have been the right thing to do, get a quarterback that's had some experience.
Yes.
And let a kid like May watch and learn. And I'm not saying he's not going to play. What I would do if I was the coach, I would say if I'm up 26-7 in the fourth quarter, put him in.
Now, here's what I would say. If I was in that room today, and these guys are making the argument, May over Brissett, I would get up on the table and I would pound it. And I said, let's stick to our plan. Yeah. Do not deviate from the plan that we set out to have Brissett come in and then have May come in as our future. Yeah. Let's not do anything that's going to, you know,
I think that
harm that plan. Because once we do, now we're in a world of hurt.
I think the real problem, though, is you got Mayo, who's new. They want to do something. If they start out 0-4, which they could.
He can't be coaching for his job. He has the job.
No, I understand. He's not coaching for his job, but the Boston press will be all over him. Okay?
So be it.
Why did you start Brissett? Why didn't you start this one? Why? He's got to just say, I think you're right. Stay with what they said. Yeah. Let Brissett do what he can do.
And then
bring
let
in
the natural order of things.
Maybe by the middle of the season, if they're not doing anything at all, you put the kid in there and say, okay, give him because it's a lost season. Because I think it's a lost season regardless who's at quarterback.
You know, but here's the thing: and you know, when teams pare down their roster, it creates opportunity because you don't know who's out there.
Right.
And Al, what I did last night, I went through the transaction wire, and I tried to find offensive linemen that excited me. And I said, you know, this is a fool's errand because any offensive lineman that excites me is not on this list.
Yeah.
They are with a team. Yeah. They are being coveted right now.
They'd have to do they would have to do some type of a trade. You're not going to get it off of.
You're not going to get someone else's.
You know, the question on Judon was an interesting one. You know, after the fact, it was done. Now all of a sudden he wasn't well liked. You know, that always aggravates me. But he was the best defensive player they had for the last 2 to 3 years. He got him from Baltimore. He's a great pass rusher. Now, he's 32 years old. Yeah. So go back to what we talked about.
And I think we should back up a little bit and mention the fact that, because we never really addressed it, that Matthew Judon had been traded to the Atlanta Falcons for a 3rd-round pick.
Right. So a lot of people went, oh, my God, they didn't get anything for him. Well, what do you get for a 32-year-old guy who doesn't play every game? And
has been injury-prone here.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He doesn't play every game. So I think I would have tried to pick first of all, everybody should remember the Patriots draft stink.
Yeah.
So if it's a third round draft, well, we had a first round 2 years ago, and he stunk.
Al, they aren't alone. And the thing that leapt to mind here when I was perusing the transaction wire was how many first-round picks there were amongst those players that got released.
Yeah.
And N'Keal Harry from the Patriots, Tony, Kadarius Toney, the Chiefs let go. Juju Smith-Schuster, the Chiefs let him go as well. I mean, there were a lot of guys that were projected to be really good players. 2 years after being drafted.
I mean, to
they're
answer
out.
your first question, though, I think Harris was a surprise for me. He was
Yes.
he caught
Damian Harris. Kevin Harris.
Kevin Harris.
Yeah.
He caught the pass the other night that was a pretty decent, went in for the touchdown.
And he turned. Yeah.
He turned.
Yeah.
And they don't have a spectacular cadre of receivers.
You know who he reminded me on that play? Kevin Falk.
Yeah, a little.
Yeah. Kevin Falk.
So he was my only surprise. All the rest of them, the other surprise is why they keep this field goal kicker who's a 60%er.
Oh, Joey Sly? No, he's a guy. They kicked that. They cut Chad Ryland.
Oh, did they?
They cut
I
him.
didn't see that. No,
Yeah, that was. I saw that coming from a mile
Jesus,
away.
20. He's like
You saw that coming from a mile
16
away.
for 26,
Yeah.
62%.
Well, and then you've got the college football season that's going to get underway, Al, with so many changes now, an expanded playoff format, the big upset in week 0 over in Dublin, Ireland, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets upsetting number 10 Florida State. Now they'll come back home, and guess who they play? Boston College.
Yeah. Well, it's been interesting to see what O'Brien can do with this team.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the coach they had before did a reasonably good job. I mean, O'Brien comes in, he's going to be under the gun. I mean, this.
But Al, with the transfer portal being what it is,
I know.
I think it's kind of created a level playing field now for all teams. In fact, here's my upset special, Al. I got to submit these picks, but North Dakota State's going to beat Colorado. North Dakota State.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
They're a FCS power, and they're going to be coming in. And I think Colorado's going to overlook them, and they'll be had. The Buffaloes are going to get upset. But so many things to look at in the college. Just the landscape in terms of the conferences now.
Yeah.
You have a Power Four. I guess the dismantling of the Pac-12, I think, was sad for me. I loved those teams, and then UCLA, USC going into the Big 10. No longer 10; they're like the Big 20 now.
Yeah.
The SEC is a 20-league team now. The ACC's expanded.
Well,
They've got Stanford and Cal.
It's like a
and SMU
juxtaposition of what you're used to. And you know what? 5 years from now, we'll all be saying, well, you know what I mean?
And here's the ACC leaving the light on for Notre Dame when they're getting ready to come over as a football team.
Incidentally, changed. I got to bring up one thing before we jump to the Red Sox. Did you watch the Little League World Series?
Love that.
But
Yeah.
I mean, to lose a game the way they lost that game. First of all, I was surprised that the Little League in extra innings does the same stupid thing
With the ghost runner.
Putting a runner on second base. They only put that in for one reason.
To speed the game up.
For people on the West Coast who leave anyways.
Right.
They leave anyways. They don't want to be there for the whole game. People in Boston, New York, Philadelphia, all the Chicago, St. Louis, baseball fans,
they're going to stay.
They don't care if it's 18 innings. They're going to. Most of them will stay.
Right.
But to have it a Little League game where they put a runner on second base, but I felt bad for the pitcher on that one because he picked the ball up. Nobody at first base, incidentally.
Second baseman should have been over there.
Second baseman should have went in because the first baseman came in on the bunt. And it went.
And to me, that was astonishing because that team was so well schooled.
Yeah, it was a close game. I mean, it was 1-0 right up until the last inning, and then they tied the game, and then they win it on a play like that.
And
heartbreaking.
Lake Mary, unbelievable. They beat my team from Texas, and that was a barn burner itself too. But I love watching that. I love watching that. And now, the Red Sox are the benefactor of the fact that Milton National Little League team got knocked out because Rich Hill, who was coaching his son, became available, and now he's been called up to pitch for the Red Sox. Milton's own Rich Hill, friend of the program. We wish him all the best. We're rooting for you, Rich, to bring some stability to that rotation. You know, he brings some veteran guile, leadership.
I thought it was funny.
I hope.
I thought it was funny when they interviewed him and he said, you know, what is he, 45?
44.
44 years old, and he says, you know,
I hope they give him jersey 44.
you gotta be ready. I mean, he's been ready for 44 years. He's always been a good
the smart
pitcher.
thing he did, though,
I think
was that he didn't lay about on the couch. He was out training, working, throwing,
he always did,
getting his arm prepared to be in late season form.
Yeah.
You know,
for a guy who doesn't have he did when he first came up. He strikes out a lot of guys because he's a smart pitcher.
Smart.
So we'll see.
He knows how to locate. He knows how to get people out. You know, and I think he's going to have a positive impact on his team. Now, can he help them get over?
No, I think this team's imploding.
They still need defense, and they still need hitting.
Yeah, well, they're imploding. I mean, I hate to say it though, because when I watch them, and you know, baseball probably to me is still one of the greatest games to watch.
Yeah.
They've got the nucleus of a pretty good team. They need pitching and they need relief pitching.
Yes,
but they have. And you could go, Cedeno Rafael's a ball player.
Duran.
Abreu's a ball player.
Hey,
Duran.
And who did they have to give up to get him?
Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth catcher. But you know what? They've made some good moves. I mean, what's his name? The catcher is a decent ball player. Connor Wong can hit the ball. The Japanese guy can hit the ball.
Mazataka, man, he's on a heater.
So if your pitching is not there, they're going to keep you in the game.
At the bottom of the order, and they're going to manufacture. And then they get on base.
And then O'Neill, if he's healthy, he's got 23 home runs.
And he can run. All of these guys can run.
Yeah, he built O'Neill is powerful
he's
kid.
Fast.
Yeah.
The one guy who cannot run, who looks like he's running on a treadmill, is Masataka Yoshida.
Yeah, well, Yoshida.
But he did get a stolen base out.
And Tristan is, to me, the conundrum.
Yeah.
Because I think he looks like he can hit, and yet he doesn't hit for average.
I think he's
got some
inside
power,
his
though.
head quite a bit, you know. He's got to come out.
Dev is surprised, man. Anybody with that batting stance, I can imagine Ted Williams rolling over he's not in a grave, but rolling over in a cryogenic tank. But looking at the way Dev is at bat, the way he is down, I don't know how he hits the ball, but he does.
Yeah, that's an oblique strain waiting to happen.
But he puts some mustard on the ball, goes out, and he's a 290 hitter, 280. I think he's a 280, 290 hitter at best.
Yeah.
But he's got power, and he can knock in runs.
Hit to all fields.
Oh, yeah.
He can hit to all fields.
And
that's the most dangerous hitter. He's like our Vlad Guerrero.
Yeah.
You know, basically.
But they made some good moves. The kid, Gonzalez, is a decent. He reminds me of the kid that we had here that went to Texas. God, I can't remember his name, but played a lot of positions.
Brock Holt.
Similar.
Yeah.
You know, and he's a manager's dream.
He is.
You know, so.
And he's athletic too.
The other kid that everybody was surprised that they let him go when they brought back Tristan, signed with the Cincinnati.
Smith. Dom Smith. Yeah.
He signed with Cincinnati.
He was a good player.
Not bad. He was a good defensive first baseman.
Yeah, he was. And he did a lot of good here. Well, you know, and so now they're looking at the Twins and Royals who are ahead of them, and they keep ceding ground to those guys.
If it was one team, it's easier to catch one team ahead of you, but two teams, no.
You know, to me, it's astonishing how really good those NL teams are. The Diamondbacks. You know,
I think the Diamondbacks could win everything. I mean, they got some good pitching.
They've got some good pitching. They had some good hitting. But the Yankees now are gathering steam with Aaron Judge.
Well, he's going to hit 100.
He's
going to hit 150 home runs, I think. Every night you pick
Is that all?
He hits two home runs every day. Jesus.
Take two and call me in the morning. But he's on a historic pace as well. So, you know, here we are in the stretch drive. I'm animated and energized by the addition of Rich Hill. And everyone in Milton's probably excited too. So we want to wish him well. especially from everyone here at Stepping Up to the Plate. All your friends here, Rich, wish you the best. So, and we also have that time of year, Al, down in Flushing Meadows. An event like no other, the U.S. Open.
Yeah, and hanging over the whole thing is this controversy with Jannik Sinner. And I take the position that's very similar to McEnroe and Djokovic and most of the players.
Right.
And why would he not get a suspension when Simona Halep, who was #1 female player, got a year and a half for a very similar situation? Now, McEnroe said it best. He said, was it a little bit of spray? Was it a lot of spray? Nobody knows. So they hang it out there. And this. But the point of the matter is...
How much spray does it take to create a positive test?
Well, he doesn't look like Hulk Hogan. No. He's a tall, thin kid. So is that something that they should ban? Maybe they say if somebody takes something, a doctor prescription,
right.
Up to this point.
Well, if it's a banned substance, first of all, what's it doing on his trainer's table?
Well,
what's he doing messing
supposedly he had a cut on his finger and the guy sprayed it and it got into his system. That's the argument he made, and that's the argument they accepted. McEnroe...
If you get a cut on your finger, you put Neosporin on it. Not
that's what he fired he fired the guy.
Yeah, well, he put him in a bad position.
But here's the point, and McEnroe is absolutely correct when he says this.
Yeah.
It's hanging over this kid's head, and it should.
Right.
You know, because whoever your team is, it's your team. And if it happened, now all the other players could say, well, I'll do the same thing. If all you're going to do...
But Djokovic is not looking at that, you know.
Well, Djokovic...
He's taking your position.
He is, but he's not saying, look, I don't blame... They're all saying this. I don't blame Jannik Sinner as much as I blame the Tennis Association for having dual...
rules
for men
and women.
Not only for men and women, but men who don't have rankings so that they can't get lawyers to protect them. Jannik Sinner's got a lot of money. He paid for the lawyers to get him off.
Right.
And, you know, all the Tennis Association, I think, is the weakest of all associations.
No doubt. I mean, they're showing that right now. So, yeah, it's kind of cast a pall over the U.S. Open.
He didn't play well last night. I watched the match last night. He played this kid McDonald. He lost the first match.
And then you had this unbelievable match between, Britain's Dan Evans. 5 hours, 35 minutes out.
I don't know how they do it. Actually.
Oh, my God. On that court, it's like playing on a griddle at this time of year, you know. Sometimes it can get really hot.
Now, Iga Swiatek, she's struggling. She just barely won that match yesterday.
And she's top seed, too.
And she's #1 seed, but I think she has trouble on hard court surfaces. People don't realize, though, the difference between clay and hard court.
It's a jarring thing, yeah.
You know,
your knees and ankles are probably throbbing for a week.
Well, Tiafoe said an interesting thing. He didn't go and represent America in the Olympics.
Right.
He said, because I looked at this and I said, that's on clay, because they played that at Roland Garros. Yeah. He said, and then a week later, you're playing at Flushing, which is hard court.
Yeah.
He said, if you want to win a tournament, you're not going to be able to. Now, people would argue, would you rather, like Djokovic, say, I'd rather win for my country than win a tournament, even if it is a major.
Right.
My argument is just the opposite. I'd take Djokovic's thing. I'd rather win for my country.
Right.
Than win an individual tournament, whether it's a major or not. So I thought Tiafoe was wrong on what he said, but I think it was right in terms of the timing.
Correct. In times of preparing yourself to be competitive there.
There's a lot of work involved in it. If you watch what these guys do before they even go out and play that match that day, they're exercising, they're stretching, more stretches than anything else.
They're taking care of themselves.
They have to take care of themselves, and they're all in great... Alcaraz played a match yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how anybody beats him, though. I hate to say it because...
He covers the court like no other.
I've never seen anybody cover the court like him.
Yeah.
And get it back with pace.
He's unbelievable. And you're talking, he's the French and the Wimbledon champ, and has a chance to,
He could win the U.S. Open.
Right.
I think him, Tsitsipas lost. That was a big surprise. He lost.
Yeah.
Medvedev, Djokovic, the same 4 or 5 guys are going to be the Alcaraz. I think Alcaraz and Djokovic are going to be the match.
Yeah. Well, Al, and in addition to the U.S. Open, we've got now the FedEx Cup Finals down in Georgia, East Lake. Scotty Scheffler, what a great thing it would be for him to win an Olympic medal and then to come back here and wrap up the FedEx Cup. I was happy to see Keegan Bradley win last week. You know,
he's a character.
He really is.
I mean, he played. I thought he
well.
played really well.
He played well.
I mean,
you know, could he be a player coach on the Ryder Cup? Could he pick himself?
No, I don't know. Yeah, I think he could, but. You know what's interesting with all of these guys, you know, when you lose, years ago it was always the big Nicholas and Palmer. It was Trevino and Player and players like that. You take out Scheffler, okay, and Schauffele is a decent player too, but you take out a couple of players.
Yeah.
Everybody on that thing can win.
Sure.
And there's a lot of young guys you don't even know. You've never seen them.
And they're coming up.
And but there's something. Whether it's the tools that these guys are using, the ball or whatever. I mean, these guys are hitting the ball 390 yards on the tee. I mean, that for me is a drive and a 3-wood. They're hitting a drive 390 yards, well on the par.
And a 3-wood to get home?
You know?
Wow.
So it's not the same game. Plus,
it might take me more than that.
I'm a purist. When I watch them and I say, you got to
They get a lot of roll off this. It's tremendous, like an extra 100 yards of roll.
And these guys have caddies that have played the course before. They know every place to hit the ball. Yeah. The ball sits up. There's no bad lies. None. I mean, you go play.
It's not like USG. It's not the USGA rough.
You go play even good golf courses around here. I mean, you get some bad lies. I mean, these things are sitting up like crazy.
Yeah. And then, of course, you've got the LPGA event coming back to Boston here at TPC Boston, and it's going to be interesting to see some of the locals. Megan Kang from Rockland, who's probably going to have a huge. I saw her there TPC when she was a junior, and playing in an event there that they had, and so it'll be interesting Labor Day weekend with all that's going on. You got Boston College playing Florida State on Monday night, and it's going to be awesome to see that. And then you've got the start of the football season here. Oh my God, Al! I mean, what are we going to do with ourselves?
What's the first game? First game
for
here?
Milton High?
No, for the Patriots.
It's Cincinnati.
It's in Cincinnati.
Yeah, in Cincinnati. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for us this time. We thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next time on Stepping Up to the Plate. Take care, everybody.